But before we dive right in, can I just say, what a privilege to have such a wonderful panel that reflects both the wisdom of experience and the passion of youth. And speaking of youth, Mr. President, if I may start with you, when you were younger, not many years ago, what was the biggest challenge you saw on the continent, and how far do you think we've come in addressing it?
Let me start by saying good afternoon to all of you today. And express how happy I am to be here, having a discussion with you, but wanted to welcome my brother, a friend, Prime Minister of Lesotho, to Kagame, to be here with us. He took all the trouble and canceled other programs. So he was here because of the importance of this meeting. So thank you very much, Prime Minister. Now, back to the question. First, when I was very young, that was a long, long time ago, so many decades. I don't think I had, at the beginning, the eyes to see what the problem was. I was seeing the problem, but I didn't understand it. I saw problems, I experienced problems, but it took some time before I realized that these are things that shouldn't be happening to people, including myself. And as I was growing up, I also discovered that maybe something can be done about it, and that it is not other people to do it other than ourselves. A bit of history. When I was very young, it started when I was about 4. You can imagine at 4 I wasn't thinking really much about anything. I was just seeing things happen. But that's when my family went into exile, left this country. The family was fine by the standard of that time. They really didn't have any problems. But we became refugees in the neighboring country. From that time I was 4. So I grew up as a refugee. Like many Rwandans, I'm sure some of them are here, but more their parents than themselves, because most of the people here are very young. Probably they were born when we came back here, or in those early years just before we came back to the country. But I'm trying to condense, what I have to say in a short time. As we grew up, therefore, as refugees, and the suffering that comes with it, and so on and so forth. But I think also the lessons that come with it. We grew up experiencing things that taught us many lessons, other than going to school and here and there. We learned other things that you don't learn in school, but you learn in life, just in life. So to the particular question, the problem I saw was I was even asking myself. I asked my father when I was 12, whom I lost when I was 15. But at 12, I asked my father, I said, what did we do? Why are we here? Why are we in a refugee camp, feeding by way of getting ration every week? He went into a long story which explained the problem, but I won't repeat that. But I think it was clear that it was politics, it was the leaders, it was, in our case, it was a convergence of colonial times and the times of independence. And, you know, everything was just what it should not have been. So those are lessons we learned. So something was wrong. But it is disheartening to when you see that what I'm talking about then, so many years ago, in the 60s, some of them are happening even now. You still have people, especially young people, suffer the most, I imagine, and their mothers, and you still have people suffering, and suffering because of politics, because of all kinds of bad governance. Yeah, today, why should, as I experienced it when I was 4 years, why should it be happening now anywhere? It doesn't have to be in this country. Why should it happen anywhere, say on our continent? That we still have refugees, we still have tribal conflicts, we still have all kinds of things, people fighting each other than building themselves and building their countries. So for me, it's a lesson learned, a lesson that also shaped some of us until this day. And for the young people here in the room, you don't have to go through that in order to be shaped the right way as many young people at that time came out to be. So you can learn even lessons of others, things that happened in time, in history, to other people. And also put yourself in that position where you may think, oh, what's supposed to happen to me? Or it can even happen to me. What should I do to prevent that? Or what would I do if I face that to actually come through it alive and manage it well? But that is not just you. It becomes a bigger community, a bigger society that we are talking about. So probably I gave you more than you asked for, but
thank you, Mr. President.
Stop here for now.
Thank you for that reflection. It is indeed disheartening. Thank you. It is indeed disheartening to hear that political instability is still ravaging some of our African countries. And I hope that to the youth listening, you can reflect on some of these lessons. Right Honorable Prime Minister, good morning and welcome again. If we were to pivot a little bit and look at Africa with its rich cultural heritage, in your view, how can we generate economic value and opportunities through the empowerment of our artisans, entrepreneurs, and our young people?
First of all, let me pay respect to His Excellency and to our distinguished guest, and esteemed colleagues. I'm one of those people that come a long way in business. I know that I might not be direct to your question, but just want to phrase it somehow with the experience that I have had on my journey to where I am today. Where are we coming from in Lesotho? I come from Lesotho. Normally in Lesotho, when you start your youth, starting from the age of maybe 5, you start being a head boy, looking after your parents' animal. That's that life I have lived. You will find that it's quite difficult because even if we are head boys, we start going to school. You won't be able to be going to school every day because you have to exchange. If I go on a Monday, my brother will go on a Tuesday, on and on like that. So you'll find that in a week, someone goes to school twice, the other one 3 times. Next week, it will be other way around. But where I want to go is these things of our youth getting into business and also having some jobs opportunities is a very good thing, and we really encourage it. Some of those of them, they are very innovative. We are seeing very good things that is coming out of them, what they are doing, which was never the case in our times. And we are saying, let's support them. In my case, I started business in a very young age. I think when I started business, I was around 20. You'll find that in those days is way different from now, where children have got advantages of going to school, learning, studying, and all the things that are associated with the future today. I started business at a very early age of about 20, where I started with a brick making concrete. What they call it, in my language, I would be saying sitini, which is a concrete brick. I was manufacturing those, and I was selling them to the locals for them to build up their houses. That went on, and then I was involved in many other things, like the selling of animals. You know, we would go to South Africa, which is our neighbor, buy the donkeys, take them to the mountains. Remember, these are done by foot. You take too many days on the road, driving this to the highlands so that you can be able to trade them and get cattle or sheep and bring them to the city, which is Maseru, where now you sell them to the butcheries or to the abattoir. So those are the lives that one has lived. But as time goes on, I just want to say to our youth, patience pays. be a patient. Up until as time goes up, I touched in many different businesses up until before I joined politics. I was one of the top business people in Lesotho. Our young generation will know that unlike us in the past, you'll find that your father owns Bedford truck. They will own something that of those days, which Studebaker vehicles, which our youth does not even know about today. The life that they are living today needs them to work very hard and be able to achieve greater things. The cars of today have got first names and surnames, and that is their cars. You will be talking about Aston Martins, Rolls-Royce, Porsche Cayenne. This is where you are, our youth. Be patient, take your time, make money. One day you will be able to achieve all this.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable. I think there are many lessons here for the youth, and one of them is youth, let's be patient. It takes time to get a Porsche, right? Another lesson, Right Honorable, is I think it's a testament to your story where you are that African ingenuity is at an all-time high, and we should be able to monetize and embrace our creativity. Now turning to our youth voice on the panel, Mombi. You see firsthand the challenges young Africans face in finding and developing their skills. With your work in skilling young people, how do you project the future of work in Africa?
Thank you so much. My name is Mumbi Ndongo. I'm from Kenya. Kenyans, hello? And I'm really honored to be here in this esteemed panel. So just to give a brief background of who I am before I answer the question. So my name is Mumbi. I'm a chief change maker at what we call Powerland Project, which is a Pan-African impact organization working to build capacity in technology. And we do this by innovating around education and providing scholarships to train software developers across the continent and get them opportunities for work. So regarding the question about the future of work, just to give context, we were launched about 3 years ago. And so far, we've been able to train about 15,000 young people across the continent of Africa. And 15,000 may seem like a huge number, but if you see the actual need for the demand, the actual gap, we're not even scratching the surfaces yet. But the beauty of this is that we've been able to find ways to collaborate with different institutions to find solutions for these young people in regards to how we perceive the future of work is going to be. And I think while answering this question, there's a lot of conversation about how the future of work looks like, especially for Africa. But for mine, I think I just want to put it in context for the young people here, because I understand first and foremost, we're an extremely practical generation. So we want to see what you're saying in action. So at Powerland, our first cohort, we were able to train about 1,000 young people. Out of this 1,000, there's a young man known as Ben. So Ben is about 21. His parents were not able to afford for him to continue with law school. So he had to drop out, especially post the COVID pandemic. And with what we were able to do, we were able to give him an opportunity through Powerland Project to build his skills in technology. And as we speak right now, Ben was able to create a solution, a fintech solution that's currently working across the continent of Africa. But his journey didn't just begin from there. So when he was done with the program, he was able to join Powerland Project as an intern. but you could tell his desire for where he wanted to go was much bigger than what Powerland was providing at that time. So he got an opportunity to do some remote work, gig work with a company in the United States, using the skills he was able to get through Powerland project. At this point, he was head of engineers. He was managing a lot of young engineers within the context of the startup. He was earning roughly about $4,000 a month, which ideally in this context is pretty much good money for a young person who's about 22. Within 5 months, he realized there was a problem, and the problem was heavily around how he would receive his money. So he had a huge challenge with accessing money that he had already worked for. So he decided to create a solution for that by building Africa's first neobank for gig workers that is known as Paid. As we speak at this moment, Ben and his team has been able to create jobs for over 8 other young people across Africa. They've been able to transact roughly about $300,000 US in a year's time through their platform because they understand the future of work is heavily going to be driven by gig work and freelancing work. So if we don't have a solution on how our young people can be paid, then how do we expect the economy to grow? And this just goes back to answer your question regarding the future of work. The future of work is not linear, it's dynamic. It requires a lot of agility, especially around education. How are we training our young people? Why are we taking so long to revise curriculums in universities and schools? Because now it means that a lot of young people are missing out and there's a huge gap, skills to market gap. Secondly, there's a lot of conversation around technology. So the future of work is heavily going to be reliant on technology. How are we leveraging this opportunity as Africa at this moment to make sure that our young people have skills to adapt to technology and use it as a conduit to empower the other different sectors that they may require? So just to summarize that, I think the future of work is extremely diverse, and I think that's the first point, because if we look at just one person like Ben who's been able to impact with our little work, and then the 60% of the population of Africa who's young people, then we need to think around the solutions that we're creating for that. Thank you.
Absolutely. That's a powerful story you've told. And thank you. It's inspiring to hear the work that you're doing to open the doors for young people. Speaking of youth and the future, Mr. President, if I may come back to you. As we look to the future, Africa holds incredible potential with its young workforce. And it's often said that 1 in 4 young people globally will be African. In your view, what should Africa prioritize over the next decade to position itself as a leading source of global talent?
Yeah, from what you've just stated, what is obvious is that we have the numbers.
Indeed.
Now, next is to work out the quality of those numbers. It's not just going to be numbers, it's also whether. So we have to invest in our different systems that the young people grow through. Whether it is education, it is, but there's something we always forget at times. You provide education, you mind their health, you call upon them to participate and even in their own growth as well as their country's growth. But there has to be that environment that actually allows everything to happen. I'll come back to the politics of everything. The politics that allows stability to prevail, and therefore within that, all kinds of things to be done that we are talking about. We have to build the infrastructure, therefore, on top of that, that serves these young people. And then their task, which they always are going to be good at, will be entrepreneurship, as we have been told. It will be about innovation. It will be about doing whatever business that earns them a good living that everyone aspires toward. So Africa has everything to be where we want to be who we want to be. So we can only blame ourselves for not achieving that. And therefore, to avoid the blame or blaming ourselves, that's why I started with saying the politics has got to be right. And it has to provide the stability that therefore creates that environment where people can do what they are best at. We have seen it's no longer just the potential. People have been talking about the potential of our continent. No, we've just seen how that potential to an extent has materialized to actually prove that everything is possible. So why not do more of what we've been doing to prove the case and make sure that more and more people benefit from being the best they can be and also benefit from doing the very things that we always talk about. And here I have to say we should also get tired of just saying the right things for so long. We want to see the right things happen and resulting from I'm thankful that in the program we saw today, I was really happy when they didn't call me up to give a speech. I was, not that I'm saying others shouldn't give speeches, but I'm saying at a personal level, I have been on this stage saying so many things and even repeating myself. And then I see my brothers and sisters, colleagues, doing the same over and over and over and over. It's 5 years, it's 10 years, it's 20. But then we need to ask, even before anybody asks us, we need to ask ourselves, but what to show for what we've been saying? We really need to get tired of this. I think I can't emphasize it enough, but I think.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's clear that quality is crucial, and I hope that for the sake of our continent, quantity and quality will go hand in hand, and that there will be no repetition after this Youth Connekt Summit. Prime Minister, building on what Mr. President was sharing, when we think about the future, now it's synonymous with technologies. How can African leaders leverage the rise of AI technologies and digital solutions to deliver inclusive and relevant skilling and employment opportunities for the young people?
Thank you very much, moderator. I think our young people have got a lot on their plate. Africa has got a lot of minerals and other things that they can bank on. Before they even go outside to the far world, we need to work within ourselves and trade between ourselves as Africans, as our youth. Our biggest trade problems that we had in the past was access to finance, being one of them. That hampered growth. But lately, you find that there are a lot of institutions where you can be able to approach them and they can be able to assist. That is how you grow your business, and that is how you grow yourself. So by making sure that you have the bank loans and other things, but what is very, very, very important is whoever helped you with his finances or their finances, make sure you pay back. Don't just take and walk away. Because the problem with that is, it is true that you'll take and go away, but life does not end there. Tomorrow you're going to need the same people that try to help you. Businesses requires the presence of the people that have started them. Your presence there to make sure that you turn your own dream true is required in business. In the olden days, it was very difficult because you wouldn't go to the bank to ask for money. But these days, it's very easy, and everything now has become even more easier because most of the things are digitalized now. So many of the things can be done and done correctly because of what we can access these days. I thank you.
Thank you, Right Honorable. Thank you for highlighting the importance of access to finance. And finally, to our young leader on the panel, as we close, what would you say to the African youth present today who may feel discouraged or unsure about the future in such a rapidly changing world?
Thank you so much. So I think perhaps maybe to put this in context, I'll just briefly share about my story as well. So about 3 years ago, before starting Powerland Project, I worked in a development finance institution for a period of over 6 to 7 years. And to be honest, I was in a good place. I didn't need to leave and go into entrepreneurship to start, providing solutions for other young people. But when the COVID pandemic hit, I saw a lot of my friends who are entrepreneurs really suffer. And they were suffering because they were not able to adapt quickly enough to create, to make sure that their businesses are digitized fast enough so they can continue operating during the pandemic. And most of them, even when they wanted to do that, they could not afford such things as quality talent, just to build your website or to create an app where people can access your products. And so just sitting down and creating this program that we were able to create and having the impact that it's had currently right now, I think it was a good sense of validation. It goes to also answer a lot of, just to reiterate a lot of what has been said here today. One is heavily around patience. I know where the world is right now, it seems like a lot is not in order. A lot is not working out in order within your own context of your country, within the context of the world. But I think we have quite an advantage because we have been brought up in this generation where we have access to information. If we look at what we can do with that information, how we can empower ourselves with that information to create change within our communities, I think it would take us to the next level. It would take Africa to where we believe that we can rely on ourselves heavily. The second thing is around accountability. And I know for a lot of us, especially here, the fact that you're in this room already means you have some sort of agency for you to get access to a space like this. But in the long time, if you've been doing this work for a long time, you get frustrated with small things like accountability, because we sit here, we have big conversations. I was at the Summit of the Future. We were creating amazing packs here that we really employ. The young people are the ones who are going to empower these particular things to move from paper to action. But when you go back home and there's this element and sense of lack of accountability, you sort of feel some sense of frustration. And you feel like you're hopeless, but I'm just here to urge you that sometimes it's up to us to take the opportunity. It's up to us to take control of this opportunity to make sure that we are the change that we want to see. And lastly, it's heavily around being a risk taker. There's a Latin saying that says, fortune favors the bold. And I heavily, heavily believe that once we rely on taking certain risks, I believe that the outcome of this, there's beauty that lies on the other side of fear. So if you take nothing else home today, I know you're sitting somewhere thinking about a certain idea or already doing a certain idea and feeling that you're not getting the support that you need for it. The fact that you took that risk, if I didn't take this risk 3 years ago, the 20,000 people we've been able to impact would not have that opportunity. My goal is to train at least 1 million developers by 2030. It seems like such a big number, but if you see the gap that exists, I'm not even scratching the surface. So just by taking that risk, wherever you are, in your different spaces, whether in government, whether in private sector, you are creating possibility and hope for a future for someone else. You may not feel it directly, but I promise you that the outcome of this is what we're talking about here, having an Africa that's sustainable, having an Africa that heavily relies on itself. Thank you.
Wow. What an encouraging message. I think staying resilient and patient is something we can all strive for. Please join me in thanking our panelists as we come to the end of our dialogue. A big round of applause. Now, I would like to usher us into the Q&A session. We will get to hear from you, your questions, your reflections. I will start to my right, and we will sweep the room all the way to the left. But please, when you get the mic, present yourself, and you have about 20 seconds to give us your question. We will start to my right. If we could please get the mics on the floor. Do we have any hands up?
Excellence, Monsieur le Président, Honorable Prime Minister, distinguished guests, all protocol observed, please receive my warm greetings. Onjaram, Munaramutse, bonjour. I am Amadou Tal from the Republic of Guinea, the paradise. I lead Nimba SMS, an emerging telecommunication startup. Excellencies, as International Telecommunication Union Africa Youth Envoy, I strongly believe that access to relevant information and data in this digital era is essential for empowering my generation, the young people, to make informed decisions, contribute meaningfully to society, and take Africa forward. My question is, how can government build an ecosystem that provides accessible data, relevant and digital information while empowering youth to develop essential digital information literacy skills? Thank you.
Thank you. We will take about 3 questions in a row, and we will let our panelists give our panelists time to answer. Please keep it to 20 seconds. Second question, we will go in the back. Please tell us your names and straight into your question.
Your Excellencies, bonjour, good morning, waramotse. My name is Wadrago Mohamed Basiru. I'm from Burkina Faso, the country of the honest man.
And women.
On behalf of the people of Burkina Faso, I would like to address an issue about the entrepreneurship. Every time we have been afraid of being scammed by our African peers. We all know here that it's very difficult to pursue an individual in another country different than ours in case of disagreements. So my question is, as decision maker, what policies can be implemented through the ZLICAV in order to protect, facilitate, and secure the collaboration among the young entrepreneurs in African countries? Thank you. Merci beaucoup. Ibarka.
Basiru, the question wasn't clear, but let me see if I can try and summarize, and maybe you can tell us if that was it. From my understanding, you're asking about dispute resolution and how policies and what policymakers can do to secure.
In fact, I was saying that it's very difficult nowadays. If, for example, I'm in Burkina Faso and I want to collaborate with another young man in another country, it's very difficult. Yeah, in case of disagreement, it's difficult for me to pursue that individual. So, what can be done to protect me and him in case of disagreement?
So dispute resolution.
I think so, maybe.
Or is it legal disagreement?
Sorry?
Do you mean by in case of legal disagreement?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Is it clearer? Thank you. All right. Third question right here in the middle, and we will take some answers.
All protocols be highly observed. Good morning. My name is Hope Ezra Mkwinda from Zambia, and I'm an African Union, European Union Youth Advisory Board member. My question is addressed to the excellencies. So we as young people, we believe that blending experiences of older generations with the innovation and energy of the youth, we can unlock great potentials of the youth. So my question is, how can we bridge the gap through intergenerational mentorship to carry on the values and principles of the older generation? Thank you.
Thank you. I think we will take the 3 questions and give the time to our panelists to answer. We will start from Youth Envoy from Paradise. Your Excellency, would you like to take the
Let me attempt to answer the question, but the way I understood it, I think it's not an issue of what can be done to have access to this information and to as many people as it is actually being done already in a number of places. But how can we scale that up and make sure that it's almost a given that people looking for information, they have a way to access it and later on use it as they wish. Like in this case, say in the case of Rwanda, we have created different portals. There are different systems through which people can access whatever information to serve the public or the private entities. If you look at Irembo, it just does that. It does provide information. Maybe one can complain it isn't as efficient yet as it should be, but largely people can access whatever information from whichever sector very easily. So that can be. So there are different things that have already been done. So it's not really a question of what. It's now whether actually that is happening or it is providing the services that people need. So I think, and that's another area where the private people, the innovators, the entrepreneurs, also can play a role in the kinds of investments of their knowledge or other resources to make it happen and serve the public as it should.
Thank you, Mr. President. For the question by Basira from Burkina Faso, the one around dispute resolution and what policies can be put in place to secure collaboration, could I please give it to you, Right Honorable?
I think what we need to do as countries is to come up with agreements and probably make it easier for our youth to create opportunities between themselves, to trade between themselves, and create policies to make it easy for them to trade between themselves. And so that if there's a dispute or misunderstanding between themselves or between their countries as well, it will be much easier to resolve such dispute. But in short, we need to make Africa one. That's what we need to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Right Honorable. And for the question from Zambia around bridging the gap between the generations, since we have the youth on the panel, I'd love to hand this over to you.
Thank you so much. So I think my first answer would be on mentorship. From my own experience, I'm a huge proponent of mentorship. I'm a result of mentorship. So I believe the best way we can bridge that gap is by actively being intentional around how we design mentorship programs for young people, for them to give them, and creating spaces such as this where we can have conversations with, between generations to see how we can learn from each other and foster growth together. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have time for 2 more questions? All right. 2 more questions. Your name, your country, and straight to the point. Thank you. We've done this side, so let's go all the way to the left. Any microphones on the floor?
Monsieur le Président, chers décideurs africains, je vous dis salam et muraho. Je suis
Good afternoon.
Ornella
My name
Asmini.
is
Je
Ornella
viens de
Asmini.
Madagascar.
I'm from Madagascar.
Je suis entrepreneur
I'm
dans
a young
l'événementiel
entrepreneur
et la restauration.
in the event and
La jeunesse africaine,
in the
bien
event
que nous
sector. In fact,
représentons
the
la
African
majeure partie
youth,
de la
even though we are the
population,
major
nous
section of
n'avons
our
pas de
populations,
pouvoir
we do not
économique.
have
D'un
any
côté,
economic power.
il y a
On the one
l'inadéquation
side,
entre
there is
l'éducation
a
et le
mismatch
réel
between
besoin sur le
the
marché
training
du travail,
and the job
ainsi
market
que, qui
needs.
est
So there is
accentué par
a
l'avancée
mismatch, and this is
fulgurante
even
de la technologie
made worse
handicap ceux
by
d'entre nous qui
technology
souhaitent
development, because
obtenir un travail
those
décent.
who want
De
to
l'autre
have a
côté,
decent
pour
job,
nous,
they
les
don't have access to it. On the other
nous
side,
faisons
for
face
us as
à une
entrepreneurs,
concurrence
we are also
déloyale
faced on
face à ceux qui
illegal
ont les
competition
moyens et surtout
from
les
those
infrastructures
who are the owners of
imposantes
means, the
qui
owners
nous
of
limitent dans notre
infrastructures
conquête
that
vers le
also
marché africain.
limit us
Donc,
in
on est
our
d'accord
quest for the
que l'Afrique
African
ne va
market.
pas
We
se
agree
développer sans sa
that
jeunesse.
Africa
Alors,
cannot
ma
develop
question
without
est,
its
quelle
young
stratégie
population. Now, my question is this.
envisagez-vous
What
en
is
tant que
your strategy
décideur
as
pour
decision
assurer
makers?
justement
What is
cette
your strategy
adéquation
to
entre
ensure
l'enseignement
this
et le
matching
travail,
between
d'une part, et aussi
training,
pour
between
favoriser
the education
un environnement
and the job market, but also to
pour
promote
la jeunesse
entrepreneurship
africaine? Je vous remercie.
for African youth? Thank you very much.
Yes. Merci Ornella. Je vais essayer de traduire très vite. correct me if I'm wrong, but what I understood from your question is there happens to be a mismatch between skills that we acquire from the schools and what the job market requires. And your question is, what strategies can we put in place to bridge that gap? Correct, I've got a thumbs up. Your Excellency,
Yeah.
I think you can take the question.
Well, first of all, let's really acquire the skills as we know them. And then the problem of reconciling that with what has to be done is much easier. I think the most important thing is to have the skills. Let's have the skills, but also in the process of having those skills, maybe people need to look at the different educational programs and those of training to see whether they are actually indeed answering the very questions we have to apply them to. So that is, I think, a much easier problem than not having the skills, providing the skills.
Right.
So I think I would rather concentrate on providing the skills as I think about the applications of those skills to what it needs to be done, but shouldn't be an impediment for the supply of the skills that are necessary broadly. And then also we can address this problem in a parallel, in my view. It doesn't have to be a big problem. We shouldn't even be thinking about it so much as a problem, but rather as an opportunity also that provides some work to do in reconciling what needs to be reconciled.
Thank you, Mr. President. One last question from the left. If we could get the mic to one more person. Again, a kind reminder, please state your name, country you're from, and straight into the question.
His Excellency, Mr. President Paul Kagame, and the rest of the visitors, I have a question. With increasing focus on skills like creativity, problem solving, and adaptability, how can Africa's education system integrate these skills into the traditional curricula? Because most of our problem is our curriculum is too traditional, and when we get out, we are not able to integrate into the society and the skills to acquire. We find that we have to also learn other skills outside our education system. So what is the government doing to better prepare the youth and to also integrate these skills into the traditional curricula? Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's a question that keeps repeating itself. We've gotten an answer from His Excellency. Perhaps then we take one more that is different from the previous question. So I have a request from the Right Honorable. We will take one question from someone from Lesotho.
Yes.
Are you from Lesotho?
Non, je suis du Burkina Faso.
Vous êtes du Burkina Faso. Alors je vais demander qu'on prenne une question from someone from Lesotho for now, please, on this side, and we might come back to you, Burkina Faso. Just.
Ok, merci.
Where is?
Yeah, the one raising here.
Yes.
Yeah. Should give them a microphone.
Yeah, they might ask something that is different from.
Protocol observed. My name is Letlatsa Ramabele from Lesotho. In countries such as Lesotho, you'll find that there are institutions such as USAID where entrepreneurs apply for matching grant. And you'll find that entrepreneurs sometimes will be required to bring a certain amount to access such funds. Like there's a company that I know which won about 5 million from the USAID, but they could not be able to raise the amount that was needed from them. So I wish to know if there is a way that the government or their strategic allies can ensure that the entrepreneurs, if they have managed to access those funds from USAID, they can get the money that is required from them. Like, you'll find that they will say the grant will expire if you are not able to deliver within this milestone that we have set. Thank you.
Right, Honorable? Would you like to take the question?
Yeah.
Not that one, not the one from Lesotho.
Not the one from Lesotho. All right, I'll throw this to Mumbi. Mumbi,
Try that.
you are
So,
save the day.
okay. I think I heavily relate to what he mentioned because being in this space and working with different partners, every partner comes in with their own recommendations and conditions of how you get to access their resources.
Right.
And I think one of the core conversations we were having when we were here previously, I think around August, was around how we can work with different partners to find ways to redefine or restructure some of these financing models and also heavily base them on what is happening on the ground instead of writing them in boardrooms and then impacting them or imposing them on young people. So just to give an example of what he mentioned, so there's always this condition where if you don't spend all of the money, it has to go back to, and sometimes the conditions, from my experience, the condition is extremely different. When I was studying Powerland, I had this vision to go to 5 countries. I was able to do it within a record time of 2 years, but by the 3rd year, I had to scale down on 2 countries. So does that mean that whoever has provided me with the resources comes back and decides to take it back, or do they sit down with me and try and restructure how we can use those resources and learn from the lessons to create something that is impactful for the young people? So I think it's a question that heavily also goes to the partners in this room to see what are the current models that they're employing, and are they working for the young people and for the impact we expect.
Thank you, Mumbi, and we'll just throw that question back to the partners in the room. And on that note...
Let me add something to what she's just said.
Yes.
And indeed, this is where partnerships become very important. Like in our case in Rwanda, we have partners with the European Union, with the UNDP, we have with the private entities like Nosken, and internally here we have different organizations, whether it is Imbuto or there are many other private entities, but they all work together and with young people, identify their problems, identify key areas where they can make certain investments. And like in our case, we also created a fund, business development fund, which serves up to district levels. It takes care of grants where they are needed. It takes care of repayment of loans. It gives collateral guarantees, or to ease on how people who need such funds can access them easily, but also with a sense of accountability. It is not just going there and receiving funds to start your business or to run your business. It's also, in a way, going to hold you accountable, but making it easy all the way. And that has had a great success. So, and on this note, I want to thank the partners as well that have been working together.
Thank you, Excellency. And on that note, we will end our dialogue. I want to thank our wonderful panelists for sharing their thoughts. I think it's clear that the future of Africa is in good hands, with leaders who are committed to empowering the next generation, young people who are stepping up, building up Africa, an Africa where young people not only have a seat at the table, but we're bringing our own tables, our chairs, and some Wi-Fi. So thank you. Georgie, over to you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, to everyone on the panel, please just wait 1 second. To everyone in the room, kindly stand. Now, it wouldn't be a youth summit if we don't take a selfie. Can you imagine? So we'll take it, we'll turn this way and we'll take it. But I'm going to ask you, who are we? And you say, Youth Connekt. Youth Connekt Africa. And what are we doing? Taking Africa forward. Let's just try it. Who are we? And what are we doing? Alrighty. So when we take the video, don't let me down. Don't let me down. Can we take the selfie together? Yes. Yes, please. All right, we'll turn it. Okay. Your Excellency, Right Honorable, the young people in the audience, the young people all around the continent, who are we? And what are we doing? Thank you. Your Excellency, you didn't say it. Or there was too much noise. We have to all say it together so it's believable. Intergenerational dialogue. Intergenerational dialogue. Okay. Who are we? And what are we doing? Thank you. A warm round of applause. A warm round of applause.